I don't know if you guys know this, maybe if you watched my live streams or caught that one random video I made a while ago, I kind of have a little bit of a fear of the forest, which is kind of ironic because I also kind of like the outdoors. I like going into the woods, I like the mountains and stuff, but something about it, those hundreds and thousands of acres of trees, is just scary. Mostly at night, I would say. I have called it nature's backrooms before, and I am coining that term forever. And that stands true not only by the fact of how extremely easy it is to get lost in the forest, but also how there are loads and loads of missing person cases that have gone cold. Today, I want to talk about a specific case that has lived in infamy as one of the most bizarre string of missing person cases when it comes to the forest today, and it still hasn't been solved to this day. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle. It's a loosely defined region in the western part of the North Atlantic Ocean where a number of aircrafts, ships, and other things have said to have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Why is it always triangles, you ask? Simple. Triangles have 3 sides. 3 days ago, I lost my wallet in that little crack between the middle console and the chair. Seriously, what's up with that? Like, we have self-driving cars, but we can't figure out how to put something there or have a different design to where there isn't like a small crack between the console and the chair. You have to slam your hand down there. My hand's too big for that shit. I can't slide my hand down. Like, how has this problem not been addressed? Okay, where am I going with this? Oh, right. The Illuminati, pyramids. I don't know. Triangles are kind of scary, I guess. But today, let's talk about a specific triangle. That is, of course, the Bennington Triangle, one that you might have not heard of before. The Bennington Triangle is a region in southwestern Vermont that has gained notoriety for a series of mysterious disappearances and strange occurrences. The triangle is roughly bounded by the towns of Glastonbury, Woodford, and Bennington, and it covers an area of around 100 square miles. It describes a region of southwestern Vermont in which a number of people have went missing between the years of 1920 all the way to 1950, and even on. There's been many instances in this area of UFO sightings, hauntings, even Bigfoot sightings, but most notably are those 5 disappearances that have happened between 1945 and 1950. That still to this day, no one can explain. Now, I would deem myself as a little bit of a skeptic, if you will. I tend to search for the more realistic version of how someone disappears. That's the reason why I'm so attracted to these stories, because you can't really find an easy way of explaining these, which really gets the mind going. And a lot of people, especially in the small town of Glastonbury, which is smack dab in the epicenter of the whole Bennington Triangle situation, have loads and loads of different stories of the paranormal, like I said. And honestly, it's quite surprising how little information there is about these disappearances, especially the lesser known ones. There's only one out of these cases that is like very well documented, but the rest of them are just kind of like thrown to the side. I had to dig and dig and dig to find information about these, which is also interesting. I mean, you would think something like this, it would be pretty well documented, but weirdly it wasn't. So let's begin. The first of these specific string of disappearances, because there actually was missing person cases before this, but again, we're just focusing on these 5, began with a 74-year-old man named Midi Rivers. Rivers was a very experienced outdoorsman, and not only that, but he even worked as a guide for those who wanted to venture out into the forest, so his knowledge of the area was quite extensive. But that fateful morning, Rivers decided to go on a hunting trip with a few hunters, including his son-in-law, Joe Lawson. So they were all walking together on this trail headed up to the campsite. But they ended up reaching a fork in the trail, and Rivers decided to venture off on his own, telling everyone he will be back around 3 o'clock for lunchtime. He just wanted to take a little bit of an extra hike. No one really knows why he did this, but no one really asked any questions because, he knows the area. He's a very avid outdoorsman. I'm pretty sure all of them just thought, oh yeah, we could trust him to get back by 3 o'clock. Maybe he wanted to hike a little longer, maybe he wanted to take a leak. Or it could just be he really just didn't like Joe and didn't want to be around him and just kind of needed a break. But regardless, Rivers affirmed with Joe that he would not go far whatsoever and he will be back quite soon. However, when lunchtime came around, he was nowhere to be found. And you see, Rivers is an old-fashioned, quite punctual guy, so they all instantly thought, okay, it's kind of weird. He should be here. And they knew exactly where to search. I mean, they just go back to where they saw him leave and then follow the trail that he went. But unfortunately, he was nowhere to be found. No clues, no nothing. And the reason this one is so interesting is all of these disappearances are in quite a well-marked, famous trail, and it is called the Long Trail. So for someone like Rivers to just poof, disappear out of nowhere without a warning doesn't really make any sense. Again, seasoned woodsman, and he knows the trails like the back of his hand. To think he would just vanish like that without a trace doesn't really make any sense. But after 300 plus residents and even soldiers got involved from Fort Devens, they combed the woods and surrounding areas for 8 days, and the only thing that they found of him was just a rifle cartridge. And it wasn't a used one either, it was just a rifle cartridge. Now, I know what you all are thinking. Maybe Joe had a vendetta against the old man. Maybe life insurance policy, like who knows? Maybe all of the hunters decided to gang up on the old man and beat him up. But that just doesn't add up to me. There would just be too much evidence of a struggle. If he got shot, there would be blood, there would be bullet casings, there would be so many things that would lead to that. But there was just nothing. So a lot of you were probably confused here, so I ended up getting an expert opinion. We brought a specialist. Actually, he himself is a ranger, so he deals with a lot of these missing person cases. So let's see what Ranger Jones has to say about the situation.
Now, in my expert opinion, the problem all started when he separated from his group, so probably shouldn't have done that.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, he probably shouldn't have went off on his own, but like, what do you think happened to him after he went off on his own?
Because he went a different way than his group. So that's how he went missing.
Well, I mean, sure, yeah, he shouldn't have went off on his own, but like, how did he go missing is my question.
Oh, that's Bigfoot.
I regret everything about bringing you here. This was a mistake. Gonna move on. The disappearance of Paula Jean Welden is considered to be the most infamous of the bunch, the most well-known, as most people would hear about this case specifically when it comes to the Bennington Triangle. This case is actually what led to the creation of the Vermont State Police and is also the one that a lot of people really like to pin supernatural things on it. Paula Jean Welden, the eldest of 4 daughters born to architect William Archibald Welden and Jean Douglas, was raised in a lively and supportive household. In 1946, at the age of 18, Paula was a sophomore at Bennington College, where she pursued her passion for art, particularly watercolors and sketching. Alongside her studies, she worked part-time as a waitress and enjoyed various activities, including swimming and hiking and other things such as that. From everything I can read or find, it seems like she had a pretty good life. Nothing was really out of the ordinary. Then one day, after a double shift at the college dining hall, she decided she just wants to do a quick little hike, maybe an hour or two, go to something called the Long Trail, which, like I said before, is a very popular trail that a lot of people hike. She asked many of her friends to come with, but it seems like some weren't interested and some just were busy, so she ended up just going by herself. Elizabeth Parker was actually her dorm mate and was told about these plans to go on a hike for about an hour, maybe a little bit more, and she would be back soon. She was dressed in blue jeans, tennis shoes, and a red fur parka. She left around 2:45 and hitchhiked her way to the entrance to the Long Trail. Now, the reason this disappearance is so strange is the vast amount of eyewitness reports seeing her hiking. Many people reported seeing her along the trail at around 4 p.m., but after that, no one saw her again. Now, there is a lot of speculation here as, why did she choose a brisk winter day in December to go on a hike? But the weather was supposedly around the 50 degrees mark, which isn't terrible, but gradually throughout the night, obviously the weather's gonna get worse and it's gonna get colder. However, once she entered that trail, she was never seen again. The search effort didn't begin until the day after she went missing. Obviously, the first place they searched was around the said area that she was last seen, the entrance to the long trail. They even checked a nearby cave that they assumed that she would have taken shelter in, called the Everett Cave, but alas, nothing. No sign of her anywhere, nothing that she dropped, no footsteps, no nothing. If she ended up getting lost, you would think she would at least have the knowledge to set up camp, find some shelter, maybe try to figure out her way back, but nothing. Throughout the search, there was actually many different leads and people having eyewitness reports of seeing Paula even after her disappearance. A waitress was said to have waited on a woman that fit that exact description of Paula and was stated to look upset or even disturbed. But the most suspicious person of all actually came to the father of her. Once Paula's father heard of this initial lead, the waitress, he randomly disappeared for 2 whole days without a word, came back with no results and nothing to say. This led the police to look into Welden a little bit more, deeming it to be a little bit strange for him to just disappear for 2 days after hearing that information. Apparently, her father and her were at a bit of a fissure because he didn't approve of the guy she was dating. But personally, I feel like it's a little bit of a stretch to assume that her dad just went up and murdered her or something just because she was dating a guy that he didn't like, but I don't know. I've heard crazier things. And then there was even a guy who stated that he knew exactly where the body was dumped. A man named Fred, who was a lumberjack, apparently told multiple of his friends, like, hey, yo, I know where the body's buried. I know where she's buried. Turns out, he was just trolling a little bit. He was doing a little bit of trolling. He wanted a little bit of attention, wanted to look cool in front of his friends. I don't know what friend would think knowing the location of a dead body would be cool, but to each their own, I guess. But throughout the entire case, there were many different calls with terrible leads, some decent leads, some not so decent, which tends to happen when it comes to high-profile cases like this one. But alas, the case went cold. Some speculated she killed herself, and some speculate that it was foul play.
That's probably Bigfoot.
Dude, I brought you here to be the voice of reason, okay? I don't need you spouting some random bullshit, getting people feeling all weird.
All right, I'm sorry. I do actually have a really good reason why.
Okay, fine. Why do you think she went missing?
Well, because she went on that trail.
You're worthless. Leave. Get out. Go. Get out of here. James Tedford's case is probably one of the more bizarre ones of the bunch because the man kind of just poofed out of thin air. And you'll understand what I mean after hearing this story. And that's not the only thing that makes this extremely bizarre. But before James' disappearance, his wife actually disappeared a few years before his. James was serving during World War II, and once he finally was able to return home to his wife, she was just gone. And I know what everyone's thinking here. Oh, she ran off with a different man or whatever. But the situation does not lead one to believe that, because they both had a fantastic relationship and even stayed in close contact with each other while he was away. Now, sure, there's speculation of anything happening there. It doesn't really matter. She could still just run off with a random man, but that's not it. Because not only was there nothing leading anyone to believe that she would just up and leave like that, but James gets home to find a meal that was left at the table, almost as if he just missed her. Assuming she would come home, didn't think much about it, hung around for a little bit, she never came home. Multiple eyewitness reports were made of seeing her walking to a grocery store that very same day, but that's the last anyone has ever heard of Pearl. She just poof, gone. And obviously this affected James quite greatly, but no answers, no leads, nothing. And soon he would unfortunately suffer the same fate. James was headed to visit a few relatives in St. Albans City. He arrived to the said location and spent some time visiting with his family and stuff. Every one of his relatives didn't see anything wrong with him. Nothing was out of the ordinary. Everything was normal, just a regular day. And then James, they ended up seeing him off at the bus stop. They even saw him get on the bus to head back home. And this is where things just get weird. Everyone saw him get on the bus, right? And out of the 14 passengers on that bus, no one ever saw him get off, but they all remember seeing him. But they never remember seeing him get off the bus, but he was just gone. And obviously this seems completely impossible. Like, how the hell did literally no one see him get off the bus? But he never returned back to his home, and no one ever saw him again, including the people on the bus. And it's weird because all 14 of the passengers had the exact same story. They all saw him on the bus at the last stop before his final destination. Then, when they arrived at where he was supposed to get off, he just wasn't there. To make things even stranger, all of his luggage was left on the bus, like he just poofed out of existence. Everything he brought with him was just sitting there. Obviously, this led many people to jump to supernatural conclusions because, like, you know, it doesn't really make much sense that 14 passengers on a bus would all collectively lie at the same time.
Ah, yes. To me, that sounds like a time-dimensional portal opened up and sucked them in. The only explanation I can find.
Why are you still here?
Did you know Bigfoot could actually mind control people? Bigfoot might have mind controlled everyone on the bus, grabbed the old man before anyone could break out of his Bigfoot spell.
I told you to leave.
Why?
I hate you. You are ruining this for everyone. Now, this next one is quite tragic as it has to do with an 8-year-old boy named Paul Jepson. The day was October 12th, 1950, in Bennington. His mother was a caretaker of some pigs, and all she had to do was go up there, feed a couple of the pigs, go back home. So obviously she believed, oh, you know, all I got to do is just feed a little bit, feed some pigs. It ain't going to take that long. So she decided to leave Paul in the car and told Paul to stay put while she goes and feeds the pigs. But unfortunately, those little piggies might have been a little bit difficult as it took roughly an hour for her to get all of the caretaking work done and to get back to the car. She tries her best to hurry everything up and rush back, and she finds out that her beloved son is missing. Now, obviously, right off the bat, you could just think, oh, leaving your son in the car that long, obviously just got out, walked away. But I mean, just think about it. It's only been roughly an hour. How far is an 8-year-old really gonna go? Unless he's just full sprinting it, maybe, but like, you're not really going to go that far as an 8-year-old. So she starts yelling her son's name, searching the area, but you need to realize it is a very wooded area around here. Supposedly, this is actually the same area that Paula went missing years before, but unfortunately, if her son happened to make it out into the woods, the chances of her finding him by yelling his name and searching around is pretty slim. And not only that, but the chances of her son finding his way out of the woods is even slimmer. But they quickly got together a search party along with a bloodhound who ended up tracking him down a logging road, and the scent kind of just ended at an intersection of back roads next to a stream. Now, personally, I feel like this specific missing person case can go many ways. The child could have easily just walked up to the road, someone could have stopped, asked if he needed help, and then kidnapped him. I mean, let's be real, that's obviously a very likely scenario. The child could have fell into the stream, which would explain the loss of scent. But even so, it does seem crazy that an 8-year-old could get lost just so quick and so easily. But unfortunately, after that day, Paul Jepson was never found. But one thing that really does bother me is that this specific case has so little information about it. Like, I looked through so many different articles. I looked forever. I cannot find a picture of the boy, can't find any documentation about this situation. There's only like a small clip of a newspaper article that I found. Sure, it was in the 50s, but like, this one is just shrouded in mystery why this was not covered much at all. It just felt like nothing was really done here, you know? Weird. Nothing? You got nothing to say about this one?
Bad parenting.
Oh wow, you actually said something that makes decent sense.
Or it could be a Wendigo.
God damn it. God damn it. Moving on. Frieda Langer was a 53-year-old woman who loved the outdoors. And not just 16 days after the disappearance of the 9-year-old Paul, she and several of her family members went camping into the woods near the same area where Paul had vanished. She and her cousin Herbert Elsner left the family campsite just to go on a short hike. But before they got any more than just a few hundred yards from their camp, Frieda slipped and fell into a stream. Upset and annoyed at these turn of events, she says, I'm gonna go back and get a change of clothes because I don't want to walk around soaking wet. So her cousin patiently sat there and waited while she walked back and got a change of clothes. And he waited. And he waited. But Frieda never returned. Her cousin finally decided to head back to camp to see what's taking her so long, to find that no one has seen her at the camp either. She wasn't at the camp at all. Somehow, in those few hundred yards between the camp and where her cousin was standing, she just disappeared. For the next several weeks, there were over 400 people, police, volunteers, firefighters, soldiers, and even an aircraft, and they could not find a single trace of Frieda. Eventually, the search was called off, but that's not where the story ends. This is not like the other ones. You see, in this case, her body was actually found, but 7 months later, in an area that was already searched extensively by many, many people. And to make things even stranger, her body was so badly decomposed that it was beyond recognition, that they couldn't even figure out the cause of death. Which, I don't know if you guys realize this, but it takes many years for a human body to decompose. So somehow the process of decomposition was like sped up.
It's probably an Indian portal.
Indian portals. Indian portals?
Well, you see, according to Native American law, Glatsonberry Mountain, the center of the Bennington Triangle, is actually cursed. One legend of the Algonquian people involves a stone hidden in the depths of the mountains that swallows anyone who stumbles upon it.
Okay, all right. Okay, anyway, there are many different theories and ideas to what happened to these people. There's even another case where a strange death happened of Carl Herrick, a man who went on a hunting trip with his cousin. Once the two got separated, Carl up and vanished. After a 3-day search, they found him dead in the most strange way. He was squeezed to death. Almost like someone came up and just gave him an extreme hug to the point that his ribs completely pierced his lungs and he died. Not only that, but there were no shots taken from his rifle. There was zero signs of any struggle whatsoever. And the idea that a bear would just walk up and just squeeze someone to death and then do nothing with the body, that doesn't make any sense at all. So obviously, people are speculating that it potentially could be
Bigfoot.
Yes.
Yes, Bigfoot, of course.
Unfortunately, yes. Everyone has been speculating that it was Bigfoot that did this. But those are the 5 crazy disappearances in the Bennington Triangle. And these are just within these 5-year span. There's actually a lot more cases of people missing, but this was the more iconic one, I would say, the one of multiple people in a 5-year span. So let me know in the comments what you guys think happened. Maybe you'll have a better idea than Ranger Jones over here of what actually happened.
I love big feet. That's me.
And if you guys enjoy this content, please let me know if you would like more of this type of content, because I enjoy making this type of content. And if you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends, tell them about me. I'm a pretty cool guy. Once you get to know me, bye.